Well, this is all nice and dry here now. I was hoping to be able to painted this last night, but it just was a little too damp and I didn't want to run the risk of not doing a good enough job. So we've got to feed cows here now. When Jay gets here, he's gonna paint this, and then by the time we get done feeding, we'll be able to flip it over and start putting posts up, top rail, and so on. We ended up getting a little bit of snow here overnight. We've got maybe, I don't know, an inch or two of wet snow. So we're gonna go ahead and get the cows fed, and then we'll get down in the shop here and start putting posts up and so on. Well, we've got everything all mixed up. Now we'll dump these first couple loads off. So we'll just turn this guy like this, shut this one off, jump into that other one. a conveyor chain that appears to have had the master link come out of it, and it's all kind of wadded up here, so we've got to get that fixed. I'll have to push the feed that way and try to get it back together here. So fun stuff. It's the weakest point on these mixer wagons, these Supreme mixers, is the damn conveyor chain. And it looks like from where this is unhooked right here, that all it has happened is that the master link has come apart. Yeah. Well, I've got the chain loose. The tensioner is on the opposite side of where it drives from. And then I've got the two hydraulic hoses hooked together so that we can rotate this motor freely without, yeah. So we're caught a little bit here. I think that might come out of there, Jay, but we'll pull it this way first and then we'll rewrap it. But I've got to push this feed back some here, so. This floor was swept nice, you know?
Yeah.
And we're holding this guy up. He wants to get paint in here, and I'm occupying shop space, for crying out loud. There, easy. Alright, so we just take this. We'll need that pipe today. Well, wait a minute. I've got to see where your leaks are. Alright, so we're just going to have to pull outside. We couldn't pull it by hand. We'll hook the forklift on there and just pull that chain this way. There's probably 400 or 500 pounds of feed on top of that chain, and we just can't pull it this way by ourselves, so we'll have to hook a machine on there. All we simply have to do is pull it this way, get it down over the top of the sprockets, connect the chain down here back together, and then we'll be in business here.
A little more, Andy?
No, that's good right there. Just flip a little bit. Alright, back up. Alright, hold up a second. I gotta get a bar and push this guy back a little bit. Right there. Come forward a little bit, we'll move this slab Alright, try to back up a little bit. Alright, right there. Hold up a second. Now go down with it. I'll get the pipe wrench and I'll roll it by hand. Okay. It's on the sprocket, timed in the right spot, but I've got to get a bar and a pipe wrench.
Okay.
So go down to hold tension down so the chain stays on the sprocket. Come forward.
Oh yeah, you got it out there, huh?
Once we get that down here, we'll get out of the way. Jay. All right, we are basically back in business. I've just got to get a couple of new master links here, connect that together, tighten our chain back up, hook our hoses, and then we can get on out of here and dump off the rest of this dry cow feed. This got a lot of baled hay in it, corn silage. So we'll get this back together. We'll let Jay get painting here. And yeah, fun times, huh, Jay?
Always.
Well, Jay has this all painted. Now we're just gonna flip it over and get ready to set posts and top rail and whatever. So we've got to bring some tubing down here from the hay barn, get that cut to the proper length, and then we can start putting up the walls here. Yeah, it's alright. I gotta lift it up and carry it that way. All these were just tacked on, so we can just tack that. We'll clamp it and tack it back on there. All tack everywhere. So I'll get the chain unhooked and then we'll push it over there and square it up a little bit. All right, we've got this flip door where we need it. Now these tubes that are on the back, we just had them tacked on there to keep that junior channel square. Just little tiny tacks, so it's amazing that it held that much weight at all. So I want to get that back on there so that we're sure that stays straight until we get the rear posts on. So the girls are going to rip this tape off. They're going to get that cross member or that tube welded back on there, and I'm going to run up to the hay barn and grab the steel and bring it down. We'll cut the posts, cut the top rail, and so on. Well, we have the rest of the steel here. We've got the sheet metal that we're going to use for the sides laying on the floor, and we're cutting that down to length. They're 4x8 sheets, and Sarah's cutting roughly like 12.5 inches off of those 8-foot sheets. Alex is going through now, and she's just grinding down these little tack welds that I put on there. When I put the floor on, I tack welded each sheet to the other sheet, and then we welded it completely on the other side. So we will not weld this seam here when we weld the inside of the body. So we have some of the miscellaneous materials on this trailer. I'm getting ready to cut the posts now for the front, the back, and the front. And then we'll have to make our top rail. We've got to add on some material to the 24-foot top rail to make that long enough to accommodate the 5-foot cab shield. So we've got to add about 3 feet onto a 24-foot length of rectangle tube. The other material that we have here is the form material for the post. And this was delivered some 2 weeks ago. And I had this stored in the hay barn. So once we get ready here, we'll start putting this all together. This step here and the step where we build the floor takes the longest amount of time. Well, the girls have the sheet metal cut for each side. We've got the rear posts on. We've got them tacked into place, and they're getting the front posts ready now. I have the top rail. I had to add on a few feet to get to the 27 feet that we need because we're 22 foot long, and then our cab shield is 5 foot long. So in the top rail here, I have to drill 1.5 inch hole, and then we're gonna set in it's not really necessary because I put this same bushing in the tailgate arm, but if I just drill a 1-inch hole, because I use a 1-inch bolt for the hinge, for the tailgate to hinge from, if I just drill a 1-inch hole in here, that would be enough, but then it kind of leaves the tube open for moisture to get inside it. So being that I have this material here, I just cut a 3-inch long piece of tubing. This is like DOM. It's 1 inch inside. We'll drill the tube out, set this down in there, and then we'll ream this out because once we weld it, it shrinks a little bit. So we get that set, then we can carry the top rail over. We'll carry it up, slide it in, move it over in there, and then lift it up and set it down on top of the front and rear posts. Then we'll get everything kind of tied off so that the sides can't move at all. Then we'll go in and set all of the posts. We'll get all of the posts set, and then once all the posts are set, then we can start pushing our sheets up into place. So they had to do a little mending there to get that tube to fit. It's a little tight. The cross member is just a little long, not much. Don't get the jack underneath there so that it doesn't, if it falls on her, it's not going to go down only a little ways. So they'll get that top rail pinched in there, and then they've got it marked. They'll get it jacked up into place, and we'll get it square, tie it off, and she can't pick that up. It's go down with the jack. Yeah, that didn't loosen up earlier for me either. Yeah, there we go. All right. Now just pound that in there with a sledgehammer. I think you're pretty good now. So. Alrighty. That's how that's done. So we better get to drilling here. the girls have the front posts set. While they were doing that, I was getting these holes put into these top rails. So what I did was I drilled this top rail out. I drilled an 1.5 inch hole, and I dropped in a piece of heavy, thick-walled 1/4 inch. It's DOM. It's 1.5 inch outside, 1 inch inside, 1/4 wall thickness. I drilled that at 1.5 inch, dropped that down in there, welded it, grinded the weld off, and then I reamed the hole out to 1 inch. Therefore, the bolt fits nicely. The bolt would fit into that tubing nicely. However, once you weld it, it ends up shrinking on you, and you need to adjust it with a reamer. So what we're going to do now is we are going to clamp a couple of safety stops on the outside of the top rail. We're going to do the right side first because that's where we have the forklift. So we're going to carry this top rail, we're going to wiggle it through the post here, get it set down on the floor. Then we're going to come in with a forklift and we're going to lift it up and set it onto the posts. Get it tacked down, then we'll do the same thing. We'll move over to this other side. If I had a couple of men working with me that were taller than 5'2" and 5'3", you're 5'6"? No. We would just lift it up on there, but we're just gonna do it the safe way, and we'll use the forklift. So let's get the top rail up on there. Well, we've got the 4 posts up along with the top rail. This is where we're going to sign off from this video. When we come back at you next, we'll end up setting all of the posts up along with the sheet metal on the sides. We'll tie it off, and then we can cut these guys loose welding. A lot of this welding stuff, it takes longer to set this stuff up than it does to actually do the welding. Wouldn't you guys think so? Yeah. Pain in the butts. So we had some excitement today with the mixer wagon, and the steel got here actually earlier than I thought it would have, and it worked out perfect when it did show up. I did have some seed corn that we were trying to organize. We've got through part of that. We've got to go back to it here at some point, but this is coming along very nicely. Just a few days and this will be pretty well wrapped up. So with that being said, this is where we're going to sign off, and we'll come back at you once we get installing the sheets. So take it easy, folks. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you at the next one.